All right, welcome to the 2020 KYTSA, the Kentucky Technology Student Association update virtual session. We're going to go through updates as it relates to existing chapters first. Pause for some questions that may come in as we discuss this, and then we'll go through more of an orientation for those of you that are maybe new or interested in starting TSA, what that might look like. Those of you that are existing chapter advisors, you're more than welcome to stay on for the duration, although some of that may be repeat for you, but you may also pick up some good tips and tricks. So I'm Mark Harrell, currently speaking. I'm the state advisor. Andy Stevenson is our TSA state coordinator. He's also on the call, and he'll chime in as things come up where he can lend his expertise. And then we'll also, he'll have a couple things that he's going to go through with you as it relates to new competitions and competitions that are phasing out and what have you. So let's talk briefly about the system that we're in. So this is Teams. We're using the Teams live event system. So all attendees are muted. It just makes for a more seamless presentation when we share out the recording. If at any time you have a question, you'll see on the right side of your screen, if you're in the Teams app, that there is a live event Q&A section. We'll answer those questions as we come to the conclusion of the update session, and then again, we'll look through that list at the conclusion of the orientation section of the presentation and answer all questions that come in. Both Andy and I will kind of chime in with our feedback and insight out. So please use that feature so we know if there is any confusion or anything that we maybe need to clarify. Or if there's something we left out, if we get to the end and you say, hey, what about this? Please be sure and ask us. Andy and I will send you out your PD certificate for joining this 2-hour session. We'll have that out by Monday. So if for some reason you don't receive a PD certificate for this session on Monday, please shoot me an email and I'll make sure that you get it. We are using the Teams participant list. Most of the time, Teams captures your email address that's associated with what you're doing, or at least captures your name. Sometimes it does miss, or for some reason, sometimes people come in as an anonymous attendee. So if by Tuesday you haven't received a PD certificate and you need one, please just shoot me a quick email and I'll get you that as quickly as possible. Same thing for the slide deck that we're going through. There will be links you'll be able to click in this slide deck just for a nice one-stop shop for you. And then the recording of this session will also be sent out on Monday. So if you don't receive any of those 3 things and would like them on Tuesday, please reach out. So with that, let's get started with a big change coming with Perkins 5. So one thing with Perkins 5 that hasn't changed from Perkins 4. So those of you that are a true CTE pathway or program, middle school or high school, you know that in the past as well as going forward, districts can use up to 35% of their Perkins funding, their CTE funding, and allocate it towards CTSOs. That can be used for advisors' travel and lodging, advisors' subs, advisors' conference competition registrations. No student travel or expenses are allowed to be covered with Perkins. Those of you that maybe have a TSA chapter and your district is not allowing you to use Perkins, or maybe you didn't even know you could use it, take a screenshot or when I send out this slide deck, make sure you use this to your advantage to have access for your travel needs, which helps ultimately lower the cost for the chapter. Districts can choose to allocate Perkins funding all the way down to 7th grade. So those of you that are at the middle school level, interested in starting or continuing a TSA chapter, you can use Perkins funding if your district chooses to allow the funding to trickle down that into the middle school. A big component of Perkins 5 that is new, and you'll see it highlighted there since it is something brand new for really this year is kind of the getting used to year. Next year is when this will come into full effect. But if you're considered a CTE pathway or a program and you access Perkins funding, the quality indicator that's coming with new Perkins 5 language is that you must have a CTSO or a co-curricular career and technical student organization that aligns to your program area. So depending on your program area, if you were a health science teacher, that would be HOSA. If you were business, that's going to be FBLA or DECA. For engineering, computer science, IT, most of the time, the most closely related is TSA. We do have some schools out there that do Skills USA. They align their program to Skills USA, but just so you know, moving forward, especially starting in 21-22, in order to use and access Perkins funding for your program, you will need to have a CTSO aligned to your work. Just a quick membership graph for you. So you can see we've had a record year again, almost 4,600 middle school and high school members this past year. Unfortunately, we did a lot of work. We're going to switch venues from Louisville to Lexington, move our state conference. We have 3 great regional hosts that have done a great job with regional conferences. Super excited. A lot of work went into moving our state conference, and then March, 15th, 16th, somewhere in there happened. And we ended up having to cancel because of the governor's orders, and a lot of those students that would have been excited and probably more students than we've ever seen at state conference for some time, unfortunately didn't get to come to our state conference. And then, as you know, or probably know, even national conference was canceled as well. So we're excited about our membership growth. More students is more impact. Getting these students ready for the future work that is ahead of them, especially in the STEM fields. So we look forward to continuing to grow over the next foreseeable future. Actors, this map is out on your website, out on the TSA website, and you can click on those stars. The blue ones are high schools, middle schools are in red, and then locations for regional and state events are in. So you'll be able to click on those. It's an interactive map. If you're curious, your neighbor next door has TSA, it'll tell you the advisor's name. Then you can look them up in the email system, shoot them an email. You can see we have 3 distinct regions. Red is what we consider the West region. The gray area in the middle is our central region. And then our East region is in blue. East goes to Morehead State for their regionals. EKU hosts Central, and then Murray State hosts our red region there, our West region. We did get all 3 regional conferences hosted before COVID-19 hit. So EKU did a great job. We had almost 400 students on campus for a day there, had a great award ceremony, and brought in our 2 new competitions. Our drone competition, you can see a picture in the top right of a drone getting ready to fly through some obstacles. And then bottom right, you can see the PVC kayak competition. So that was kind of built by Murray State in the West region, and then we've expanded it now to every region. So the PVC kayak competition has really, in our pilot year, it was really a hugely successful competition at regionals. Murray State hosted theirs. You can see one of their unique competitions there in the bottom left with they bring in a fire truck, they hook up the hose to the fire hydrant, and they build what they call storm shelters, and then the fire department tries to blast them down with water. So it's a really unique regional event that they host at Murray State for one of their competitions. And then Morehead State has always done a fantastic job of hosting. They ran our drones competition for the first time there, and they actually moved the competition into their brand new student center. So it was great for students as a recruiting tool for them to see what the new student center on Morehead State's campus looked like. Some national awards that were given out during the national recognition ceremony. Chastity Arowan was our Kentucky High School Chapter Advisor of the Year. So Chastity at some point will be receiving her plaque in the mail. This is something that she would have received on stage. Unfortunately, that did not happen at nationals. Sherry Kurtzinger was our Middle School Chapter Advisor of the Year from Eminence Independent Middle School. Sherry's done a great job of starting a relatively new chapter and really growing her middle school chapter there. So we congratulate both TSA advisors on their award that they would have received on stage, but will receive in the mail. We did have one chapter that was actually recognized as a 300 plus blue cap chapter. So if you have 301 students in your chapter or more, Nationals recognizes you both in their program, and they go through that list on stage during the national conference. Camp Ernst, believe it or not, is a brand new first year middle school in TSA, and actually earned that 300 plus blue cap chapter award. So the caveat is that the students, you'd have to blue cap your TSA chapter, which means you can roster an unlimited number of students into the system, and you do physically have to roster those students in. I know we had a couple chapters out there that blue capped and said they would have 300 or 400 or 500 members, but they never actually put those members in the system. Typically, schools wait and do that towards state conference because they need to be in the system. But anyway, congratulations to Camp Ernst up in Northern Kentucky for being a brand new chapter and also being a 300 plus blue cap chapter. So we welcome them and excited to see them at state conference hopefully soon. We did elect a state officer team. We did this via YouTube videos of their campaign speeches. We did this via Google form and ballots that we sent out to voting delegates that your chapters specified your 2 or 3 voting delegates, depending on the size of your chapter, according to our bylaws. So you can see our list here. We have 2 students from Grant County that were elected to the state officer team this year, a student from Bath County, Glasgow High School, Lyon County, Dunbar, and then Audrey Suit, who was a state officer this past year, is now currently president, and she is from Fleming County High School. So we're excited to work with this team. It'll be a very unique year as far as building this out, and what TSA may look like in the coming year, considering our circumstances. So this team is definitely up for the challenge. They've already met a couple times online, starting to brainstorm some things that we can do to engage your chapter officers and your chapter members. So more details coming on that as we approach into the fall and really get our chapters up and running for the 2021 school year. So if you haven't seen, one of the pieces of recommendation that's coming out of KDE, the Kentucky Department of Education, and the safety expectations for COVID-19, you can see it up there at the top. This was published June of 2020, but they are recommending that school districts cancel all field trips, assemblies, and other large activities that mixes students in large common areas, obviously adhering to governor's current guidance regarding group gatherings. As you may know, Governor Beshear a couple days ago has limited non-commercial gatherings to 10 or less again, trying to get us to socially distance a little bit better and make sure that we're not spreading the coronavirus from person to person. That said, everything right now is honestly to be determined. We've had conversations with a couple of our regional partners. We've had conversations with the Marriott Griffin Gate. We have not signed a contract with the Marriott Griffin Gate for 2021, simply because if we sign it and then we can't fill the rooms, we will be financially penalized considerably, tens of thousands of dollars. So we're having these conversations with our regional and our state partner. The goal is early fall, start having conversations with the executive committee. The executive committee will make recommendations to the board, and then the board will ultimately start making decisions on what regional conferences look like, what our state conference may or may not look like. It could be a virtual, it could be in person. We might do a hybrid. Honestly, just like everything that's going on right now, just be patient with us. We're going to make these decisions thoughtfully and in the best interest of students and safety. And it's just going to take a little bit of time to get to that point. Regardless, worst case scenario will be virtual. We will be judging competitions virtually. Maybe, like I said, maybe that is in concert or in combination with some in-person. Maybe it's not. We just really have no idea at this point, and so we need to, once the new executive committee gets on board, which will kind of be revamped because it's aligned to the state officer chapter advisors. Once we get those folks on board, we'll have multiple team meetings, I'm sure, start having these conversations. So in the meantime, just know that that's something that we're working on and being very thoughtful and consider about as we make those decisions. So the national office has put out what they call Plan 2021. So this is what their goals and what their thoughts are moving into the 2021 school year with all the uncertainty that is our lives right now. So I just wanted to share some of this with you so you know what's coming or what their thoughts are. Some of this relates directly to national conferences. Some of that just relates to what you'll receive as a chapter this year. There's actually several exciting things that they're rolling out because they realize that schools may be not being at liberty to travel and that sort of thing. So they're kind of planning for everything, which I think is a really good idea. So they're kind of planning this out for schools that will reopen. They're also planning it out for schools that won't, or even just the hybrid. Starting August 3rd, so next week, you'll be able to affiliate with TSA. So it used to be like after Labor Day. Now they've moved it up to August 3rd. They want to make sure that students and schools that start earlier have access to this, and also you even as a chapter advisor, maybe even before you start school, have access to some of this new communication and new total TSA stuff that they're pushing out. You'll see a couple things in that kind of paragraph there. They're categorizing their competitions by career path. That's not new, but that's something that on their website I think is a great tool that you have access to. And then the big push now is 21st century skills. So that's going to be more of the leadership component as it relates to TSA. Competitions will be offered traditionally, like you see, or virtually. So there's going to be a combination coming out of the national office of both in-person competitions and virtual competitions. There will be resources available in both formats. So this will be resources directly aligned to virtual competitions, and then the same competition, you'll have specific resources for an in-person competition. They won't be able to do all competitions virtually, so you'll be able to, once you affiliate, you'll see a couple of things in here. They're going to have some documents for you to be able to use, especially if you're trying to host virtual chapter meetings, as far as getting your chapter, your plan of work ready, choosing competitions, and they're even going to do some webinars. They'll have some videos that you'll be able to share or watch yourself to kind of learn what all is going on with that. Students will be able to interact once again traditionally and virtually. They're going to do some monthly warm-up challenges, which is a new feature. So, and don't quote me on this, but take CAD foundations at middle school, for example. You may receive an email in October saying, if you have students interested in CAD foundations, here's a prompt. They have to submit their, their solution to you, and it just kind of gets them ready for competition. So I think that's a neat feature that they're rolling out. So it's not just you show up to regionals or you show up to state and it's one and done. That it could be that you're building those students' skills in their competition throughout the year. There'll also be some leadership learning activities shared out, officer training, service projects, pop-up events, could be guest speakers or maybe a podcast or virtual field trips. All that's forthcoming. So just keep your eye on your email. Once you affiliate, it automatically subscribes you to the national office's emails that they send out. Brand new, what they're calling an AMS system. This is a database system, so all of you are probably familiar with DLG, which is how you roster your students into the system. I then pull those students in from the national database into our state conference database. So when you register your students for state, they're automatically in there, and all you have to do is check the box next to the name that they're going to be coming. So brand new system coming. It will have a lot more features than the old system. The old system was pretty antiquated. And so this new system is going to allow you to do things that you didn't have access to in the past. This will also be the place if Nationals is running virtual competitions that you'll be able to upload those competition components. They'll automatically get sent to a judge and they'll be judged, and it should be a really neat system. So that's coming online, going to be ready for next week when affiliation opens. So stay tuned for more information on that system. They'll be sending out videos to help you understand how to access it, how to enter your students, how to import your Excel spreadsheets if that's the way that you typically roster in TSA. So all that's coming. I'm going to turn this over to Andy. So I'm going to mute myself. Andy's going to unmute, and he's going to take you through changes that are coming to the total TSA guides, both at the high school level and the middle school level. All yours, Andy.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon. As Mark has already mentioned, there's going to be some changes, and part of that being a hybrid system. I'm not getting control here, Mark. There we go. But first off, typically we're in the cycle where the high school book would have been redone this summer. To begin with that, the event that's being retired this year is 3D animation. The Curricular Resource Committee, CRC, felt that that was kind of a redundant program considering some of the other events that were held. So that event is being retired. New events for the year will be geospatial and data science analytics. Geospatial was tried at the national level about 8 years ago. Went through about 4 years in the middle school, and many that competed and many on the CRC committee felt that geospatial was better suited cognitively to the high school level. So it has been rewritten for a high school event, and it was retired in middle school about 4 years ago. And data science and analytics would have been is a new event in middle school, and now this will be a sister event for high school starting this coming year. So those are the two new events to replace the retired event. Okay, many will probably be happy with this one. As Mark insinuated earlier, 21st century skills and careers are going to be emphasized. It will be very important for you to, even as a middle school, normally in middle school, in the years that a high school book is new, middle school doesn't change, but this year the total TSA guide will change for both middle and high school because LEAP has been eliminated both in middle school and high school events. So as soon as you complete your chapter affiliation, is when you're typically sent a link for you to log in and download your total TSA guide. And once you get that, please check all events, even in middle school this year, because they all will be changed. CRC has been busy through the spring and summer handling both middle school and high school changes. LEAP was deleted at the end, towards the end of each guide. You will notice a list of 21st century skills and careers that are linked and crosswalked with each event. Where appropriate, 21st century skills and career items have been added to the rubrics and to part of the regulations and rules for each event. So you need to check your events carefully, especially those that your students compete in regularly, to see where those changes have occurred. So it will be important this year for you to affiliate early and to get your total TSA guide early on so that you can see what the changes are and share those with your chapter. Also, as Mark also insinuated, there's a hybrid model coming out of nationals, which you will hear more about next week, I'm sure. When you get your total TSA guide, you will also find that those events that lend themselves to being a virtual event have been rewritten, and there will be options for students and chapters, especially those who are unknown or already know that they will not be allowed to travel. This is also because it is unknown at this time due to what might happen with the virus. If we end up in the same situation we ended up last year with state conferences and the national conference having to be on site, having to be canceled. So there will be two avenues available. Students can compete. If they're not going to be able to compete on site, they will be able to compete in the virtual event. I can give you an example of the 4 events that as a manager on CRC that I manage, the 2 problem solving events, middle school structural and career prep. Of those 4, only career prep will be a virtual event. The other 3 events do not lend themselves to being done virtually, so they were not rewritten as a virtual event, but we did rewrite career prep as a virtual event. So those students who still want to compete but may not, their school system may not allow them to travel, even if there is an on-site conference, will be able to compete and still be active in TSA. And as Mark insinuated, we're still up in the air and we don't know what we're doing, but we're having conversations and we're probably considering some of the same possibilities at the state level as well. So as he said earlier, that's to be determined, and keep your ears to the ground so that you know what's going to be happening. It's going to be very important to stay involved and to know what's going on and to ask questions. Additionally, these are some others. As I said, next week, as soon as once you can start affiliating, once you've affiliated, you'll be sent the link to your total TSA guide. So those should be available early in August. And again, there will be separate guides for the virtual and the on-site events. And furthermore, as previously stated, we are considering what we can do at the state and regional level to make those same availabilities to keep our students involved. And I believe, Mark, I have run to the end of my portion.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Andy, you want to mute for me?
I'm working on it.
Nope. All right, thanks. So a couple events that aren't on the Nationals radar, but the 2 events that we piloted last year at our regional conferences, didn't get a chance to do them at state, but our unmanned aerial vehicle or drone competition, which included not only manually piloting a drone through an obstacle course, basically an inspection run is what students were doing, and then they had to come back in, our semifinalists, and actually do a programming run, which is simulating a search and rescue mission. It seemed to be very popular at several of the regional events. Never, like I said, we never really got to see what that looked like at state. So we will we'll continue to see what that may look like this year. The exciting piece that coincided with a technical upgrade training that we hosted this summer is Drone Blocks, the platform that a majority of students use to program those DJI Tello drones, actually came out with a virtual simulator for those drones. You could still program and watch a simulated drone fly the obstacle course or fly a pre-programmed path. So we may, depending on what everything shakes out to, we may move to maybe the students screen record their drone flying through a virtual simulation or something similar to that. So we're looking at all avenues to make sure that your students stay engaged in TSA and keep them active for the upcoming school year. PVC kayaks would be very hard to do virtually. It may come down to we do the engineering design portion of it and maybe not the fabrication. Maybe they take it to the local pool if they can, or the creek, and time a certain distance, or we'll get as creative as we can with as many competitions as we can. And then 2 competitions that we're going to start developing, and this was really last spring, even going into regionals, where we really started thinking about some new competitions and some gaps that we've noticed. And then everything's kind of slowed down since, but we're hoping this fall to get our executive committee together online, or maybe separate smaller executive committee meetings so we can stay under that 10 or less and socially distance. Brainstorm out some ideas for a regional and state 3D printing competition is one idea that teachers have had that has really seemed to be of interest. And then also a social media competition. So this may be, and this is me just kind of spitballing what this competition may look like, but we really see this to be a win-win. It helps students understand how to safely use social media and how to use it for a productive reason. So the idea that was kind of pitched to us is students would maybe set up an Instagram and a Twitter or a Facebook and a Snapchat or whatever it happens to be, but maybe pick 2 or 3 platforms and use it to promote their local TSA chapter, documenting what they've done, maybe the impact they've had, how many people saw the tweet or how many people saw the Instagram post, how many people liked it, documenting that throughout the year. And then as they get closer to regional and state events, they would present their data and their impact to a panel of judges. So that's something that lends itself very easily to a virtual competition as well. That could be a live a Zoom or a Teams call with the judges type of thing. So those 2 we're really kind of brainstorming what they may look like. They may not get off the ground this year just with everything going on, but just know that if either of those 2 fields really interest you and you're interested in being on kind of the development group that kind of builds out what those event guides and rubrics look like, shoot myself or Andy or both of us an email, and we'll be sure and get you involved in helping develop those 2 new competitions. Last fall, the board of directors, the national board of directors, not the state board, decided to increase dues at the national level. So Red Cap was $100 this year. Starting August 3rd, when you start to affiliate, you'll see an increase of $20 for Red Cap. So the Red Cap nationally will be $120. White Cap went up by $2 per student. So the national office decided to increase that by $2. And then Blue Cap, those of you that Blue Cap and enroll all of your STEM students into the TSA database, went from $350 to $400. So you will see a slight increase to dues. Once again, that's something the national office has voted on last year, and then that will take effect when the affiliation system opens on August 3rd. What that means when you combine that with our state fees, I'll show you here in a second, but just a reminder for those of you that are new or just need a refresher, Red Cap is up to 10 students, and you're paying a flat rate on that for up to 10 students. White Cap is anywhere between 11 and it goes up to about 24 members is where it would be smart of you after you get to 24 just to blue cap because of the way the cost structure works. But white cap is going to cost you $18 a student until it becomes cheaper. Then I strongly recommend, I don't know why you wouldn't, but go ahead and switch to blue cap because then you can roster as many students as you want for a flat fee. And then blue cap is $550 unlimited enrollment. So that, you know, Camp Ernst, for example, they had several hundred students in the system, so it cost them really last year probably $1 a student. Really is what their state and national dues cost them as a blue cap. Blue cap state dues will be waived. So last year we just knocked it down by 100, but because of the national increase, we've decided to waive state dues until priority membership ends, which is typically in November. I put late fall because they have not announced what priority membership's deadline is. But just know if you register as a blue cap chapter, if you enroll all your students that are in your STEM program or your computer science program into the TSA system, it's going to save you $150. So looking just to give you a quick breakdown of what it costs, red cap $180 gets you up to 10 members, so it's as low as $18 a member. White cap is $18 per member. And actually, when you take off the 150, once you get to 22 students, it's going to be cheaper for you to roster all your students as blue cap for that $400 fee. Once again, after priority membership and late fall is over, then that $150 state fee will kick back in, or our state dues. So when you get to 23 members, so this fall, if you have 28 kids that are interested, it's going to save you money if you go ahead and blue cap. And if you go ahead and roster all your students into the system that are in your program, then each chapter advisor that's in the system that also paid dues will receive a KYTSA polo shirt as a thank you for rostering all your students into the system. All right, a couple things. Conference announcements. Like I said, everything is really to be determined. Leadership conference is probably not going to happen just with everything up in the air and everybody getting used to whatever your fall looks like. Stay tuned on that. We haven't heard from other states that a virtual leadership is effective enough to warrant the time and effort that goes into it, but we're talking to other states and seeing if they've hosted or how they've hosted those and ways that maybe we could engage students in an online environment. Regionals, like I said, we're working with our university partners as well as following our state and governor's guidelines as well. We do have a brand new smartphone application. So if you go out to KentuckyTSA.org, there's a link to the App Store and the Android, iOS, or the Play Store. So you can click on that and download the new app. The old app is no longer, I don't even think it exists in the Apple Store. It may still exist in Google, but it's not being used anymore. We've switched platforms to a more user-friendly on both sides, the developer on our side and also the user on your side. So that may be something you want to download. The AEMS system I mentioned earlier is coming. That's going to be the new way that you enter students into the system. And also how you access a lot of stuff as well, including total TSA. So once you affiliate, you've paid your dues, then you get access to all of that. That said, the theme for whatever conferences happen, even if they're virtually this year, coming out of the national office, is Together Towards Tomorrow, which I think is very fitting for what we're doing and everything that we're dealing with. So just know as we theme out our state conference, it'll be built around Together Towards Tomorrow. Like I said, there's some monthly warm-up challenges that are coming, so the national office is really trying to look for some creative ways to keep members engaged. There's going to be some leadership learning opportunities, again, officer training, some career things, and those pop-up events that I mentioned earlier. So stay tuned on that, and you'll really start learning more about that as you affiliate and also pay your dues. So with that, that's the end of kind of the update session. did pretty well on time, 40 minutes to get to that point. The rest of this will be kind of an orientation for those of you that are new or interested, or maybe those of you that have been around a while and want to make sure that you're following the most current guidelines. There's nothing that keeps you on this call if you want to jump off if you're not interested in what we're going to talk about next. We've only received one question in the live event Q&A. One of our teachers has asked what options align with aerospace and aviation maintenance. So honestly, aviation maintenance would probably be better suited with Skills USA. They have an aviation maintenance competition. As far as aerospace, you can really lend yourself into CAD. You're going to be doing a lot of CAD work, I'm sure. So CAD engineering would be a great competition. Flight endurance is where they're building a rubber band powered airplane, flying that around in a ballroom on site. The drone competition obviously directly relates with aerospace. Engineering design could really be themed to that, and even animatronics for that matter. And then even with aerospace, there's a lot of coding that could go on, so the coding competitions could also fit in. Andy, do you have anything to add to that question, or?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay, thanks. So hopefully that answers your question. Like I said, with aviation maintenance, that really is more of a Skills USA trade competition that they have. Although they don't have aerospace and aviation related competition, so it's really, not to say you could or should do both, because that sounds like a heavy lift, but I think you'll just have to kind of look through the competitions and figure out which one better aligns, which CTSO better aligns with your program and your vision for your program. So that's it for the questions. Keep the questions coming if you haven't already. Post it over there in that Q&A, and if there's something, if you for some reason your Q&A isn't working, shoot us an email and we can always respond to that way as well. Oh, so somebody asked, is there an issue with students being in Skills USA and TSA? And there's nothing that stops students from doing multiple organizations. We have a lot of schools that do FBLA and TSA, and the business teacher and the engineering teacher work together. We have several business programs now that run both FBLA and TSA as well. Yep, Andy.
The only issue probably would be at the national level. Our two national conferences tend to overlap. I think out of the last 12 years, there's only been 1 year where Skills USA and TSA did not overlap at the national level, conference-wise.
Okay, so yeah, that may be the one of the issues that you would have to consider, and that's if you want to take them to that level. I mean, it's always something that getting kids to the national level is a pretty big honor just to get them there, and if you get to see them walk across stage, that's a whole nother exciting piece to it. But yeah, there's nothing like as far as Perkins accountability or anything like that. And we have a lot of schools that even students are in Beta Club and Key Club and TSA and all of those at the same time. We got another question. Someone said, is there a possibility for a flight simulator competition? There is definitely a possibility. I think that's a gap that we do have when you think about our aviation career pathways. There are a couple competitions in TSA. The flight endurance one directly relates, but honestly, that's the only one that really directly relates. And so, yeah, I think that's a great idea. That's something that we could definitely consider. The drone competition relates, but you don't get that national level. A lot of times what happens though is it's kind of a grassroots effort. A state will develop a competition that will really take off. They'll get a lot of interest, and then that state kind of pitches it to the national level, and maybe they take it and tweak it, and then it becomes a national competition. So that's definitely something that's a good piece of feedback. I'll make sure I save that, and we can that may be even something we could put together this fall. I don't think it would take a lot to develop a flight simulator competition. So great idea, great feedback. I got another question. What would you suggest for funding Blue Cap? You can't, this person put Perkins question mark, student fees question mark, for introduce question mark, general fund. You can't use Perkins to pay student membership fees. You can pay your member. Let me make sure I'm saying that right. Sorry. No, I don't have listed that you can pay for student dues. Advisor dues, sorry. So yeah, really what a lot of schools do is they just charge dues. Maybe they host a fundraiser. I can speak from experience when I was a TSA advisor, and I think back at the time dues were maybe $12 a student, maybe 15, but I think it was more like 12. I charged the students $20 dues, and they also got a chapter t-shirt included in that. So we bought them a t-shirt that paid for their dues. If you have 300 kids in your program and you're going to Blue Cap, then you just divide out, 300 by $400, and you have them each pay whatever that is, or maybe you charge them each $10, and then you have some money in your activity fund where you could buy some materials. Maybe you need some consumables and that sort of thing, or maybe it helps pay for the bus and that sort of thing. Someone says we use Title I funds for Blue Cap, so that's coming from another teacher in the chat over there, saying that they're using Title I to help pay for their Blue Cap. So that may be another funding resource. Some districts have gotten to the point where the chapter advisor has lobbied the board, and the board actually foots the bill for their school buses on their trips, and maybe funds their dues as well. So that's something that you could always pitch. The worst that happens is they say no. Andy, anything to add to funding?
No, other than on transportation, I think many found at one time when that was decreased in Perkins that Title IX is a good argument for the district paying for travel, at least for the cost of buses or whatever, because if they provide travel for ball teams and you're going to a competition at a state or regional competition, then you deserve the right to have your bus transportation paid as well through Title IX.
Funding is always an issue. So the more creative the ideas that we have collectively, it's something that we can share out as we come across unique funding ways to get students to competitions and pay for their dues and that sort of thing. The only other comment that showed up in the chat is someone's recommending the simulators they have in their building when we build out a possible flight simulator competition. So that's something that we'll definitely look into. So we're going to move in orientation section of this call. This is just kind of help you better understand what TSA is and why your students should get involved, and give you a couple of tips and tricks on starting a chapter, what a program of work is, and what that may look like. And Andy, feel free to jump in anytime if I skip something or gloss over anything. But TSA is the national CTSO that's really aligned to STEM. So when you're thinking about the umbrella of STEM as it relates to engineering, computer science, IT, media arts, anything that you're really applying math and science using technology and solving engineering problems is really what encompasses STEM as a field. It's obviously supported by educators, lots of parent involvement, business leaders, and just the diverse field of activities. And you'll see that here on a slide coming up. It's not just for engineering students, or it's not just for computer science students. There are multiple competitions that relate to multiple pathways. TSA's mission statement, you can see on the screen there. The key word that I like to bold and underline is intracurricular. So it's not extracurricular. This isn't something that should just be happening outside of your classroom. If you build TSA out correctly, you could actually incorporate a lot of the competitions and activities and leadership skills into your classroom. So it's kind of a seamless transition when students are leaving the classroom and heading to competition. And then you can see our national motto there is learning to lead in a technical world. So getting kids ready for that future workforce and not just being a participant in the workforce, but also being a leader in that workforce. What is a TSA chapter? So we basically take the study of STEM beyond the classroom. So this may start in the classroom and then you head off to competitions. Getting chapters to work on competitive events at the regional, state, and national level in an ideal year. Like I said, Andy and I both kind of hit on that. What this year looks like is really up in the air. Just know that we're going to do the best we can to engage your students and your chapter in a variety of ways the best we can. And then service projects are always a big component of that. So TSA at the national level always partners or has historically partnered with the American Cancer Society. At the state level, our state officers are charged with coming up with their service projects. So we partner with several different. Last year it was the Kentucky Special Olympics. The year before that was Ronald McDonald House. Or sorry, 2 years ago was Ronald McDonald House. The year in between was the International Book Project, and so we asked schools to say pop tabs from the Ronald McDonald House, bring those to state. We've weighed them. Chapters that brought in the most were awarded 3D printers as a prize, but it was much more than just the prize at the end. It was just giving back to your local community. Book project, overwhelmingly, we had over 4,000 books donated at state conference, so that was huge. We delivered those to the International Book Project. And we always encourage you at even the local level to get involved in your local community with some service project work for those students. Just some national TSA facts. So you saw kind of our state membership, but nationally there's over 250,000 students actively involved every year. That number has increased pretty greatly over the past couple years. They've really done a great job of engaging more and more states, as well as more chapters within those states. So over 2,500 teachers as advisors and over 2,000 schools in 48 of the 50 states. This does not include, there's actually a couple countries that come in for the national conference as well. So it's not just a United States thing, it's actually more of an international or a global competition when you get to that point. The competitions are really set up, like I said, to fit within your program. As a couple of you have pointed out in the Q&A over there, asking what competitions fit your program. Just because there are 30 plus competitions at the middle school and another 30 plus at the high school does not mean that they're best fit for your students. So really schools kind of pick and choose and tailor the competition list to what they're teaching in that classroom. Other schools say, here's the list of 30 plus, pick what you want, let's get you ready for those competitions. That's really up to you on how you want to build that out. The complete rules guide. Yep.
If I could comment there, just something I like to throw out. When I was a chapter advisor, classroom teacher, I quite often used many TSA events as culminating events for units that I was teaching in my classroom. And that's one way that you can use to recruit members from your classes into TSA, and a way to have extra curriculum to bolster what you're doing in class. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Take system control technology, for example, that's a middle school and a high school level competition. If you've been teaching robotics and automation, inputs and outputs and sensors and digital feedback loops and all of that to your students, if you just take the system control technology guidelines, which usually has a sample prompt built into it. And then you could even use the rubric so students understand, man, I'm really good at this competition. Maybe I should go to regionals or state and give this a shot. So yeah, that's a great point, Andy. There are over 60 middle school and high school competitions. All of them are aligned to STEM standards. They're aligned to math standards, science standards, the ITEA standards for technological literacy. And then you can see they're also aligned to the 10 core leadership skills. And then finally, the 16 career clusters. So it's nice if you just look at it by a cluster. If you're teaching kind of a manufacturing field to your program, you could look at the ones that best align to that. Or if you're more computer science and coding, you could look at that subset of the career clusters. I'll show you how to do that here in a second. I think it's coming up on a slide. And like I said, I can't say it enough, but getting students engaged during the day, during the school day, whatever your school day may look like this year, whether that's virtual, there's a lot of things you could do online with TSA related competitions, especially when it comes to coding and some of the more presentation leadership competitions. You could do those very easily with live, pull in a couple of your industry partners, have them kind of critique the students as they present through a live system such as Google Hangout or Google Meet or whatever that you're using in your classroom. So here, if you go to this website, and it's linked over here, and when I send you the PDF, you'll be able to click on it, but this tsaweb.org/competitions, looking at the high school one specifically, you can see they've kind of chunked it into areas. So if your students are really interested in STEM and the arts, if you click on this, it's going to take you out to the website and just show you the 8 competitions that are really geared towards STEM and the arts. Or if you're a computer science IT teacher, if you click on that section, it'll show you the competitions that are most closely related. So it's not as overwhelming. And I always recommend to schools that are just starting TSA, start small, pick the ones that best align with your program. To just hand the kids a 300-page total TSA event guide that has 38 high school competitions in it and say pick one is pretty overwhelming for the students and for you, because you may have to learn 38 competitions with never really seeing one of them in action. So I always recommend starting small, maybe pick 3 or 4 or 5 that directly relate to your program area. And just focusing in on those. And once you kind of understand how the event guide and the rubrics are built, they're all very similar, unique to their own content, but similarly laid out. And once you kind of understand the flow, it's much easier to pick up another competition and learn it. Middle school is the same way. So 37 competitions at the middle school level. And this is not based on 2021 data. They haven't pushed out the new high school competitions that I mentioned, that Andy mentioned, and he also mentioned the 3D animation will go away. So that this link, when it's live on August 3rd, when they update it, you'll have the most recent. But this one's built out in the exact same way. So if you're interested in just architecture and construction, you could show the students which competitions really fit that field. Leadership really spans all areas for sure. And then technology and research is a great one, especially if you're an exploratory middle school, to get kids thinking about technology and doing some research on those as well. We talked about these, and you can see a picture of a PVC kayak there that was on the pool deck at EKU. You can see one in the water there. You can see the PVC arena that we built for the drones in the middle there, bottom, and then what the drone getting ready to take off and fly through. Just to give you an idea of what those look like. So all these competitions, including the 2 you see here that we built regionally and state level only, once you affiliate, then you get access to all the rules, all the rubrics. A lot of people will go out to this website and say, well, I don't understand what that competition's about. And you don't until you affiliate, pay your dues, and then you get every nut and bolt and every piece of information that you would ever want as it relates to those competitions. So when you go to this website, it's going to give you a paragraph. When you affiliate, pay your dues, then you get 8 pages related to each competition with a 2 or 3 page rubric sometimes. So it's very in-depth, helps you and your students make sure that you're setting yourselves up for success when it comes to competing. So just keep in mind what you see on the websites, what's public facing is just kind of a taste of what you get when you actually affiliate and become active. I'm going to probably send out a survey just thinking about the flight simulator competition to the aviation teachers as well as active TSA chapter advisors to see if flight simulator is something we may want to develop out. But I've talked about these two already, the social media competition that we're starting to brainstorm, and then that 3D printing competition. So more coming on those. Just because you see them on this slide doesn't mean they're going to happen, but these are just kind of the areas that that we're really starting to think about as we expand our regional and state offerings. TSA has really started to align themselves to computer science. So now they've aligned their TSA and computer science competitions with the ISTE standards. Also, the high school are aligned to AP computer science standards, and then they're working on a CSTA, the Computer Science Teacher Association standards alignment coming this year. That may be slow just because of everything going on right now, but that's their goal, is to help you understand how computer science and IT programs can really benefit from TSA and offering this in your chapter. And then if you click these links, they'll take you out to a PDF that's specific for computer science. So it'll show you the competitions. Once again, when you receive this PowerPoint by Monday, you'll be able to click on those and go out to that page. It'll send you straight to a PDF to really help you understand how TSA and computer science are aligned. Some student benefits you can see. Hopefully they can attend at least virtually competitions. Teamwork and presentation skills, I can't hammer that home enough. Even when you talk with engineering and technical professionals these days and you ask them what skills students need, teamwork and being able to speak in front of a group, being able to communicate your ideas are huge when it comes to getting students ready for those employability skills or workplace essential skills. Service projects are a great way for them to understand the world's bigger than just them, how they can give back to their local community. And then networking opportunities with not only members of their local chapter, but also regionally, state, and nationally. And then if you start pulling in industry professionals, we also bring in at the regional level, most judges are going to be college professors, so they get to engage with some college professors. When we get to the state level, those are primarily business and industry members, so they get to interact with them and talk to them about their experiences, and the same goes at the national level as well. Time commitment, I may have Andy jump in on this if he has any ideas as well, but intracurricular, co-curricular, or extracurricular is really how you want to build it out. So some schools just run TSA as a evening and weekend type club feel. Other schools are doing co-curricular, intracurricular, where it's happening during school, and then some schools are doing both, where it's really happening during the school day, but also after hours to do a lot more heavy lifting on competition preparation.
I've seen quite a few interesting ways of doing it, and the first person I saw do it was here in Kentucky, but some advisors even teach leadership and by having classroom officers and have those officers help with classroom management, running activities in class. There's many ways that you can do co-curricular, and as I mentioned before, using the competitions as curriculum intermingled within your classroom, within your what you're teaching, your units. So there's you can it's almost impossible to do TSA 100% during class, and it's almost impossible to do it 100% outside of class. So you have to find out what's your most comfortable mixture and what works best in your situation. But the more creative you can be, the more engaging you can be with students, the more you're going to hook them, and the more they're going to benefit by it. That's what I got to add to that.
Yeah, great. Andy, I'll ask you because nobody else can talk. Is your screen showing the presentation okay? Because mine looks really fuzzy. Does it look all right on your end?
No, it's garbled. It looks like a coding mess.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and then reshare and see if that fixes it.
That's good now.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, program of work is another big piece to this. So kind of laying out a timeline of what you want to accomplish in the year. This really should be driven by chapter officers. One thing that Andy and I have heard on several occasions is, people or advisors are a little bit hesitant on starting a chapter because they don't understand how do you elect officers, how do you fundraise, how do you how do you have a service project, and all that comes in time. There's nothing that's do it all at the beginning. If it's something that it takes you 3 years until you get to having chapter officers, maybe then you have some students that run for regional office or state office or national office, but that's not something that just happens overnight. So,
we did add,
like
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Go.
We did add the new chapter packet on our website this year that had suggestions on and procedures on how to do some of those new things, and it's a very good resource to use. It has some samples.
Yep. Yeah. If you go into into KentuckyTSA.org, I believe it's under advisors. There will be a new advisor orientation packet that kind of walks you through a lot of this. But once again, that's why Andy and I are here. We're here to help you if you need to start or want to start your chapter, and walk you through everything that kind of goes along with that. So we talked about. Oh, go ahead, Andy.
I'm also available to come assist once that's allowed, or I can assist virtually over the phone or via Teams meeting or something. So feel free to contact me if you want help getting started, or have some further questions on how to do any particular aspect of TSA.
Yep. I just got a thing in the Q&A that someone's screen is getting fuzzy again. So I'm gonna stop sharing and reshare once again and see if that hopefully gets us better. And if it doesn't, I apologize. This is the world we live in right now, but you will receive the PDF so you can kind of go through it if there's something you can't see, but hopefully that fixed it just then. So we talked about total TSA a lot. So once you affiliate and you pay dues, this is where you get all your membership material. So it even has where you can print out little membership cards for your students. All your competitive event guides will be built into this total TSA system. And there's even leadership lessons that you can present to your students and you have your chapter officers present to your delegation or your local chapter member, helping them understand, things like STEAM and problem solving and teamwork and that sort of thing. So that's when we refer to total TSA, that's kind of the behind the paywall, all the access that you get once you affiliate and pay your dues. So some tips and tricks that I always like to recommend, and Andy may have a couple to add here. The national office has that advisor toolkit. You can see there's a basically a press release that you can plug in your school's name into and send it to your local paper if you decide to start a chapter to get you some local publicity. There's fundraising ideas out on their website, how to promote your chapter, how to recruit, how to create that school presence, some information all about TSA week that they host in October typically. Always ask for a mentor as well. We have lots of advisors that maybe have 10 or 20. Some of you, I'm not going to point any fingers, maybe 30 plus years that would love to share what they know and some, how to avoid mistakes that they made as they started their chapters. And we'd be glad to put you in contact with one of those teachers, and most of them are more than willing. And of course, we ask them first before we just nominate them. But and then finally, like I mentioned, just start small. I would look at maybe 5-10 competitions that really align to what you're teaching already. So you're confident in those competitions and the content that's behind them. We do have chapters that start and they run 38 competitions the first year, and that's completely up to you. But just kind of build it out as it fits and into your needs and wants for your program. Andy, anything to add to that?
No. I will. I'll say something about fundraising, and that's what the one thing I found about fundraising is the more unique you can doing something nobody else has done or is doing is often a key to being successful in fundraising. And but fundraising is always a difficult thing, but it's unfortunately quite often a necessary thing. So be creative.
Yeah, I was talking to a teacher earlier today between our engineering program update and this session. His new fundraiser he is doing is printing signage that schools are going to need to socially distance throughout the building, direction arrows when they're coming through the lunch line. He's going to do it all with a vinyl cutter, create signs, create stickers. So think about the equipment that you may have at your disposal and how that may be able to be used. It's a win-win really for the district, because the district is going to get charged less by his program than doing it by a company that makes signage for a living. So really he gets to make money for his program, and that really, like I said, a win-win, raises some money for your chapter, have your students come in and help you with that, with masks on if need be, or socially distance and that sort of thing. But
real life experience for students.
That's right, Andy. We talked about Perkins 5, so I won't go over that again. One thing that,
one thing that I'd add, or and just a question, what constitutes a CTSO? Is having a VEX team or a first team, does that constitute being a CTSO? Some people might, that might be a question that might need to be answered.
Yeah, and coincidentally, somebody put that in the Q&A. Somebody asked if VEX counts as a CTSO, and it doesn't. So there are only certain student organizations that have been, I guess, adopted federally to be considered a CTSO, and I'll probably miss one, but let me try to run through this. So health science is aligned to HOSA, Health Occupation Student Association. FBLA is best aligned with business. DECA is best aligned with marketing. FCCLA is best aligned with family consumer science. FFA is best aligned to ag. Skills USA is best aligned to what I consider the trades, as far as automotive, construction, masonry, welding, manufacturing. TSA, I best aligned to STEM, engineering, and IT, if you want to have a bucket for that. I think that's all of them. I had counted 7 on my fingers. Yeah, so VEX is not considered a CTSO. They have not had that federal designation. Somebody in the chat just put, does STLP count? And STLP does not count. That's a state level club that's been created. STLP does not satisfy the Perkins 5 requirement. First Robotics does not either. So good question, both by Andy and the chat here. But yeah, if you want to be in compliance, if you want to use federal Perkins money, you do have to make sure that you're aligned to a CTSO that's nationally or federally recognized. And if I miss a CTSO, I apologize, but I think I caught them all. One last thing I'll mention, because funding, always is brought up, and it's perfectly understandable. But the national office has, I don't know if this is a foundation or just a fund that people donate to, and then the national office turns around and creates these champion fund. It's kind of think of it as a kind of a scholarship for your first year to get started. So if you apply for the champion fund and you're accepted, you can they'll pay your red cap membership for the first year for 10 advisors, or sorry, up to 10 members and 1 advisor. And so it kind of gives you a taste without having to pay the $160 for the red cap. And so there is a pretty short 1 to 2 page application that you fill out, answering some questions, helping them understand your demographics and why you have that need. And we've had several schools over the past couple of years receive champion fund funding to be able to start their chapters. And then once you get it started, the students, the interest grows so much that it's pretty easy to sustain after that. I mentioned the app before, but if you go out to our website, which is KentuckyTSA.org, the app links are directly there. It takes you to the app. You can see just a screenshot of what our app looks like. The TSAweb.org is the national site. Lots of things will be updated and changing. I know our website, Andy and I, by next week, will have everything pretty much updated, what we know for the 2021 school year by next week. So we're waiting on a couple more officer headshots, a couple more things kind of to fall in place. And then everything you'll see starting probably next week, the following week at the latest, but the first week of August, we should have everything updated on the website for this upcoming school year with what we know. It's not going to say regionals is going to take place in person or virtually or both at next week, but we'll make those calls as soon as we possibly can. I will leave our information on the screen so you have that. I'm going to go through the Q&A. We had a couple questions come in that haven't already been answered. If you have any questions and they don't pop into your head until I click in call here in about 5 minutes, then obviously you can get a hold of us with those phone numbers on the screen, as well as our email addresses there if you don't already have those. So we had 2 more things come in. Someone asked if we have maps of the regions. So yeah, if you go out to the KentuckyTSA.org website, scroll to the bottom, there's an interactive Google map. It's color coded by county, so you'll know if you click on your county, it should just pop up a sidebar that says county you happen to be looking at. So you'll be able to access that on our website, and we update that usually in the fall with the newest chapters. So if you don't see a star on your school, that's typically because right now it's last year's data. We won't update that until the fall, when a majority of our schools go ahead and affiliate and pay their dues. Another teacher popped into the Q&A that just says that it says that applies to aerospace as well if they were using AOPA curriculum. Yeah, so when back talking about Flight Simulator creating a survey, I'll definitely hit up the aerospace engineering pathway teachers too. So great suggestion. Andy, do you have anything to add before? I don't have any other questions coming in.
No, not that I can think of, but don't hesitate to ask questions. Contact us later. Available to help, do whatever we can.
Oh, somebody popped up, said you can compete with VEX within skills. Yes, that's true. And also, I probably should have mentioned that TSA has a VEX competition as well. So yeah, that's a good point. When I said you couldn't compete in VEX robotics as a CTSO, sorry for the confusion, but I should have mentioned that TSA and Skills USA both have a VEX component or a VEX competition built into their CTSOs. So if you're doing VEX, if you're going to state or if you're going to local competitions and VEX state championships and worlds, if and when any of that happens, your students could also compete in TSA VEX alongside that. Andy?
I was just going to say the best way to state it would be that having a VEX team or a first team does not qualify as a CTSO, but within TSA you can compete in VEX and as well as skills outside of the competition, the world competition.
Yep, that's exactly right. So TSA exists within TSA. Sorry, too many acronyms. VEX exists within TSA. It exists within Skills USA, but it also sits outside independently. The independent arm of that is not a CTSO. Doesn't mean you can't compete in VEX robotics. It just means you can't use it as your Perkins qualifier. I'm going to hang on for maybe another 30 seconds. If no more questions pop in, then I'll end the meeting. Like I said, if by Monday night you haven't received a PD certificate, the PDF version of the PowerPoint, as well as the recording of this, shoot me an email, and I will get that to you first thing on Tuesday. Thank you again for joining, and hope you learned a couple new things, or if you're brand new, I hope you learned a lot of new things. So I appreciate your time.